been building her business for 20 years. She's been a sales director for 18. She's married to her high school sweetheart, Todd. I love that. They have 5 children, y'all. 4 boys, get this, 19, 17, 14, and 12, and 1 daughter, the princess, who's age 10. Prior to Mary Kay, Gina was a high school math teacher. Some of her Mary Kay career highlights include star consultant. She's been a star for 80 quarters, y'all. She's been in the Mary Kay Court of Personal Sales 14 times. She's in the Cindy Williams National Area, and there she's been the Queen of Sales 3 different times. She's been in the Cindy Williams National Area Miss Go Give. What an honor that must be coming from Cindy Williams. How much fun was that? She's earned her first free car after 2 years in the business and is now driving her 11th free car, which is her 6th pink Cadillac. She led her team to the Circle of Achievement 13 times, with her highest retail sales being the $500,000 unit club 2 times. Her highest commission check in just 1 month, get this, just under $11,000. Don't you love that? She earned the privilege of being featured with me in that Times Square in New York City. It was so much fun in 2017, and she took her whole family up there to go see it. She earned the 2019 Destination Red Cruise to the Bahamas with Todd, and it is not surprising to me that she has done all of these things, because she's one of the most determined and fun and intelligent women I've ever met in my entire life. You guys, grab your pens, take great notes, and be prepared to affirm her over here in the chat. And when we finish up, give it up for my friend Gina Beck.
Aww.
Gina.
Thank you. Okay, I'm just so glad I popped on early. I could see your unit meeting in action. That was so awesome. Y'all are so blessed. Paula, woo! I just bringing the energy and the enthusiasm and the recognition. That was just awesome. And you guys are on fire. Oh my word. And Nikki, that was amazing. I'm watching you go in. Director? I don't know y'all's positions or whatever, but man, it's really awesome. So thank you for the privilege to teach, Paula. So Paula asked me to teach on the mindset as you grow into star or into red or into whatever's next. And really, as I thought about that, I'm like, really, you can cut off anything at the end and just say the mindset as you grow. And this applies for the rest of your life. Because isn't that anything that's living is growing? If it's not growing, it's not alive, right? So this is just life mindset, I think. So I think in our Mary Kay training, we hear a lot, know your why, and then get into action. Are y'all, yeah, it sounds familiar, right? I need some head nods and all that good stuff. But once you know your why, you get into action. And I think sometimes we interpret that know your goal and then get into action. But there's more to it than that. And so that's what this is going to be about, is that knowing part. Because think about, okay, the action in Mary Kay. We know all the action in Mary Kay starts with one word, and it's booking, right? Until the booking starts, the reach out and the asking starts, then nothing starts. So if we were just to say, like the same way that you say, know your why, and then go to town, what if we just said book and then released you? Well, it's like, what? There's a lot of intricacies to booking, right? A lot. And we could teach like week after week on little tiny things about booking, like what's the script? How do you say the script? How do you text the script? What's your attitude? How do you overcome the objections? What's your time management? And where do you put these bookings on the calendar? Then you follow through. It's not just one ask. I mean, you can see there's a lot to booking, which is the doing in Mary Kay. Well, what about the knowing, the why, the mindset? It's not just a check in the block. There's a lot of intricacies to that. And so it's not enough to just say, know your why, know your goal. If you go straight to the do, you miss part of it. And there's a phrase, and it's called be, do, have. Okay, be, do, have. And a lot, I think the common, or maybe even just the fleshly natural, I don't know if natural is a good way to say it, but the first way that people usually think is have, do, be. When I have blankety blank, then I'll be able to do blankety blank, and then I'll be happy or be content or be successful. And so we tend to think we got to have it first, then we'll do. Like I got to have the time first, then I'll be able to do what I want, and then I'll be successful. Or I have to have the support of my husband first, then I'll be able to do bookings away from the house, and then I'll be, okay? So it's actually the reverse. I'm going to be first, then do, and then all of a sudden you turn around, you're like, oh my gosh, look what I have. So we're going to break down the B. Just like booking, you got to break it down. So we're going to break down the B. So one of the things that you hear too is when your why is clear. And sometimes, I would say actually most of the time, that takes some serious digging. And you can do this with Paula. You can do this with yourself. And even if you've done it before, do it again. If you haven't done it in the last few months, do it again. So you literally say to yourself, why? You know, if it's star or red or car, or even if it's something outside of Mary Kay, why do I want that? And then you have your answer. And then you ask again, why is that? And then you give yourself an answer. Well, why is that? And then you give yourself keep digging. Sometimes to the point where it creates tears or your heart starts kind of beating a little bit fast. Then you've gotten the deep why. That's a good why to ask. In fact, I think that's the only good why question to ask. There's a bad why question to ask. It's the same word, but beware. So the bad why is, why can't I pick up this phone? Why won't anyone book with me? Right? Why can't I get my act together? Why do I keep doing that over and over and over? Okay, those whys are bad. Okay, and this is why. Even if you just say them in your head, because your brain wants to answer. And if you ask your brain a negative why question, it's going to answer. So if you ask, why can't I get my act together? It's going to give you evidence. It's going to point you to the hard things in your life that make it hard to do that. Why can't I book? Right? It's going to give you the answers. So that's a bad why question to ask. Now, if you really do want to know how to get your act together or how to book or any of those silly things that we ask ourselves, just replace the word why with how. How can I get better in discipline with my time? How can I get better at booking? Because guess what? That question, your brain wants to answer also. Okay, and so then your brain starts getting creative with answering it. Okay, so the word be in the phrase be, do, have, we're actually going to break that down a little bit more. So it actually is an acronym in my world. Be stands for believe and envision. Believe and envision. And those two things working hand in hand create my being, who I be. If you've ever heard Cindy Williams speak, she uses the word be like that. It's who you be. That's how she talks. So envision is more than seeing the victories and getting pumped, you know, like you see seminar stages or whatever. And believing is more than seeing someone else doing it and believing I can do it too. Okay. So there is a system to being, just like there's a system to booking. What's your system to be? What's your system of believe and envision? Because it's super, super crucial. You might hear people say, well, I made a decision, right? I made a decision and that was the difference. Have you ever heard a speech? Like they're like, how did you earn blah, blah, blah? I made the decision. And you're like, okay, I've made decisions before and it didn't turn into the great thing that you're like celebrating. So what's the deal, right? So I think it's not that you made one decision. It's that you had to do it over and over and over and over again. Not that you were undeciding. There's a difference, you know, of oscillating, of deciding and undeciding, deciding and undeciding. I mean, I guess you could, but oh my gosh. I mean, can you imagine being on that plane? Are we going right? Are we going left? You're like, you know, and then you're like, step off. I don't even want to do that anymore. It's easier just to not, right? Because no one wants to be nauseous. So I'm not talking about deciding and redeciding, but decide and then decide again and decide again. And how do we do that? We're going to literally like flood the input. Flood the input. This is not new to you, probably. I'm sure you've heard how Gloria Mayfield Banks says, trash your house. And you've heard about saying affirmations. But I will tell you, it's not just Mary Kay teaching. It's everywhere. One of my favorite books is The Magic of Believing. It's by Claude Bristol. It was written in 1948. Okay, so if you get this book, I'm not like because really this is not a book for everyone to read. This is one you just kind of mention. I'm gonna refer a book in a little bit that I'm like everyone needs to buy this book, but I'm just gonna refer to this one just to kind of put things in perspective. But The Magic of Believing is obviously what it sounds like. How much belief is important. Written in 1948. It's a book that Mary Kay mentions reading, and that was part of the inspiration of her in doing this business. But it is very 1948. Y'all, this is pre-civil rights, pre-women's movement. I mean, this is pre-everything. Okay, but it's not new. That's 1948. I will tell you, in today's present day, I'm going through Darren Hardy's Hero's Journey. If you listen to Darren Hardy, Darren Daily, it's the whole premise is being a modern day leader. Guess what he's teaching? Mary Kay. I'm not kidding. Every week, it is like what we get taught in Mary Kay. And this cost money. I'm like, we get this for free, and we've been getting it free for like 50 years. Wow. Okay. So one of the things that came out of the book Magic of Believing is that our thoughts are waves. Now it gets kind of, I'll just tell you, it's science and Christian all at the same time, and they don't conflict with each other because God created science, right? But basically, if you think about radio waves, right? Think about a radio wave. A radio is man-made, and a radio station can be miles away, and you're listening to it in a car that's driving, which is a big metal piece of something, right? Or you're in your house and just going through brick walls. Or think about this Zoom. I mean, this is a computer, man-made computer, and we're seeing and hearing, right? Like, that's pretty amazing. So do you think that our thoughts that God created what's happening in here, that those waves are just as powerful? Sending out, there are thought waves, okay? Sending out into the world, right? I can tell you that your world changes with your thoughts. You see things differently. I was talking to Paula the other day. I'm like, the way I see people looking at me is different because of how I choose to think and how I choose to view my world. Well, the same way with radio disruptions, right? Or on Zoom, when you're like, can you hear me? Can you see me? Or it goes scratchy, and you're like, "Arr!" And it has to start all over and it slows down. Well, there can be disruptions to your thought waves too. But the fewer the disruptions, the smoother the course. And so we don't want to have disruptions to our thought waves. You know, you think, as a man thinketh, he is. It's biblical, right? So what influences our thoughts? I mean, are they just kind of crazy things in there? What influences our thoughts is what we put into our eyes, put into our ears, okay? So what are we doing to strengthen that system? One of the things is actually what you say also. My national Cindy Williams says, nothing but great things happen to me, right? And so over and over, what was because nothing but great things happen to me? It's because nothing but great things happen to me. And it's just one of her mantras that she says all the time. Well, I adopted it because I do everything my national does, right? So just repeat, right? And so has anyone ever said, oh my gosh, I knew that would happen? I mean, be honest. If those words have ever said, I knew that would happen, usually with something negative. If you say it like that. Hello? You knew it would happen. So what happened before that happened? You knew, which means you were thinking it over and over and over again. Do you think maybe that could have had something to do with it? It actually does. Not everything, but I'm just, you know what I'm catching on? So if you want to say, I knew that would happen in a happy way, you can do that too. I knew that would happen, right? Before I go into a place, you can picture it, decide. I knew that would happen. That girl was going to smile at me. I knew it would happen. You can totally change your world, you guys. Change your world with your thoughts. Okay. Let's see. Another thing is to catch your belief thoughts. So, and we're normal. We're humans, right? And so you catch a thought that's a bad belief, you know, or a limiting belief or something not so nice. An easy way is when you catch it, well, not easy, but a tip is replace it with a new statement of, I believe. I believe. Okay, because it'll send a message to your subconscious, but it also kind of helps with the affirmations. If you have a hard time with affirmations, you know, you think, oh, I just kind of sound like I'm saying something fake, you know, like, I'm a master booker. You know, that is one of the things I used to say as a consultant. I still have it. I found it and about made me cry. I'm a master booker. Everyone wants to book with me. I work 3 + 3 + 3. I remember driving in my car before Bluetooth. I would get funny looks from people because I'm a master booker. Everyone wants to book with me. I work by 3 + 3 + and they were like, who is that lady talking to? I was talking to me. Now you can get away with doing it because people just think you're talking on a Bluetooth. So doing it over and over and over, but you can start with I believe. Even if you think I'm not there yet, that's even a bad thought. But if you start with I believe I'm growing my booking skills, I believe I'm getting better and better every day, it changes your identity of how you see yourself. And the book that I'm going to recommend to you, I told Paula about it the other day, is called Atomic Habits. It's by James Clear. Atomic Habits. So good. So good. I read a lot about habits, but his was very practical with things to do. And there was a lot that I loved about it. But one of the things that he said that really spoke to me was, all this belief and habit building and how we think, it all starts with our identity of how we perceive ourselves. Okay. But this is the catch that I really loved. What's hard sometimes is when we don't do the thing, right? We don't have the day that we imagined. We don't say the things that we believe or the good things that we say, right? Or what to say or how to act and all those things that we're trying to change. And then we go, did it again. Why do I think that I could be blah, 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 or do blah, blah, blah? But he said, when you're building an identity, it doesn't have to be a unanimous vote. Think about elections. The person who wins doesn't have to have the unanimous vote, just the majority of the vote, right? And so every act that you do towards the habit that you want, or towards the result, or towards the behavior is evidence that you're creating that identity. And so you just have to do it the majority of the time. So give yourself grace when it doesn't happen and say, I'm going to give another vote for the right identity. So I loved that. So it is biblical, though, that that belief is the crucial part of the miracles. And I was just reading this morning, but I'm just going to give y'all a few. But Mark is full of it. But Mark 9:22 through 24 is one of my favorite verses. Basically, the man comes to Jesus and says, I believe, help my unbelief. So he's acknowledging there's an element of unbelief. I believe, just help my unbelief. It's kind of like the votes, right? So that's Mark 9:22 through 24. This is also one of my favorites. Mark 5:35 through 40. That's when Jesus goes to the house and the people he's like, it's one of the healing stories. And basically there's people like, she's not going to get better. She's not better, whatever. And he says, ridiculers, out. Get out. You cannot be in this house while I'm performing the miracle. Y'all gotta learn from the master. Don't share your 8x10 vision with a 3x5 mind. Out. Gone. I only share and be in the space of the people who are going to not be the disruptors to my thought waves, right? Because I got the thought waves going. And the last one, Mark 6:5, is that he couldn't do miracles there. Now let's think about this. Does it mean that Jesus he was unable to do a miracle somewhere? It doesn't have to do with his ability. What it says is couldn't do miracles because they didn't believe. They didn't have the faith. Y'all, belief is like the basis of everything. So the thing I'm going to end on is Thea Elvin. She's a national who just retired. We just got to see her retirement ceremony. But at seminar, and I don't even know if we can still see the seminar videos, but her seminar speech was incredible. And one of the words that she used was abracadabra, right? And we talk about the magic of our business, right? Have y'all heard that our business is mathemagical? My degree is in math, so I loved that, right? So I love numbers. I'm really nerdy with numbers. I love it. Come to me if you have numbers question. Anyway, that's a whole nother story. But so it is mathematical. It is the numbers, right? But it is magical. There is a magical element to it. So it's mathematical. So she said it's abracadabra, but this is where it gets good. Abracadabra actually comes from the Aramaic. Abracadabra, like it all spelled, anyway, it looks Aramaic. It's different letters. But what it means is I will create as I speak. I will create as I speak. So they go, abracadabra, right? The magicians, they created as they said the word. But really, down to the very beginning, what did God do? He spoke the world into existence. He spoke the words, and the miracle of the existence and the creation happened. He spoke it with his words. And we are created in his image. We are creators, right? We are love in action. And we are created in his image to create, to give, to speak through the Holy Spirit. I know I'm preaching a little bit, but I'm just going to tell you, we can do. Do it. Get into action. Do it, and you'll have. But I will tell you, when you've got that be as the first part, the doing is a whole lot more fun. Success is the journey, not the destination, right? And so as you're journeying, you're going to have so much fun as you're believing and envisioning along the way the victory, because what you'll start to believe and envision, my belief and my envision that I say to myself, isn't all the end destination. It's also the picture I create of how I live each of my days, what I'm doing as I'm making phone calls, how I'm talking to my kids. Like, I want you to believe and envision the process and not just the result. That's what I have for you.